Hey everybody, Dr. Baker here. Hey, I got a little makeshift setup. I wish you could see it. I got stacks of books. My tripod's at home, hanging out behind the halo light so I don't look old. Anyway, top 5 reasons to not vaccinate. Now, this is one of my favorite series, right? I've done this year after year, and ultimately, instead of trying to do it in one long video, I'm going to break it down into 5 separate videos. So today, we're kicking off with number 1. Now, I did use the word vaccinate very creatively. Hopefully that doesn't get us, banned again. So recognize that that's what we're doing here. Number 1 reason why you would not want to vaccinate is this. You don't need them. You just don't need them. And so when I say you don't need them, I'm not here to debate whether or not measles is bad. We all lived through chicken pox. Is that bad? Diphtheria really was serious in the 20s. I get it. Maybe some of these things are really rough to have, right? Not the point. The point is, when you have less than a 1% chance of contracting any of this, right, let alone dying from it, then it becomes a question of whether or not you should get the vaccine. And I know that some of you guys got pushed into it, forced into it with COVID thing, but if you look back at it and realize that COVID, only roughly 10% of Americans got COVID. I know that, reported COVID. 99+% of Americans that got it didn't die, and children had a 99.99 something chance of not dying or having any major issues from it. So at that point, you probably said to yourself, I don't think I really need to get the shot, right? Because you got it, you got over it, you built immunity. What about all the rest of them though? For example, diphtheria. When diphtheria was the worst, you had a 0.19% chance of even contracting the bacterial infection. Hepatitis A, remember that's a fecal oral disease, get poo in your mouth, 0.021% chance. HPV, now here's an interesting one. In 2005, women had a 0.0087% chance of getting cervical cancer from HPV. That sounds worthy of a shot. Polio, I love this one, my favorite one. What percentage, please throw it out there. If you're watching right now, just type it in there. What percentage of children do you think that currently are fully vaccinated for polio by the age of 24 months in the United States? What percentage? Anybody? I'm going to give it 30 seconds before I blow the punchline. Fully vaccinated by the age of 24 months in the United States for polio, 92% of kids, 92% of children. For something that is a fecal oral disease, meaning you have to get poop in your mouth. Not just anyone's poop. It's not like your kid stuck their hand in their diaper or the neighbor's diaper and then put it in their face. We're talking about it has to be from a person infected with polio. So in 1952 was the highest incidence of polio right before the vaccine came out. And in 1952, here's how I get my numbers. 1952, there was 57,628 cases reported of polio. In a population in this country of 157,600,000 people. That means that in the peak of polio, you had a 0.037% chance of getting polio. Less than 1%. By the way, 95% of the time when you got polio, it was asymptomatic. You didn't even know it was there. 4% of the time you had the runs and you vomited, and 1% of the time it was actually created paralysis. It was the vaccine that caused paralysis. I'll go into that more when we do a video on the polio shot. Anywho, last one I want to share with you, which I think is really important, is VAERS. Now, some people will say, oh my gosh, well, VAERS is total crap, or that's not really legitimate. Okay, well, here's the thing. What VAERS is the Vaccine Adverse Events Reporting System. And what it is a doctor's supposed to use it. They never do. So what happens is when somebody gets a horrible reaction to a vaccine, they go on this website and they report the reaction. But there was a study done, a 3-year study done by Harvard, that showed that less than 1%, as we continue this theme of less than 1%, less than 1% of all the adverse events are actually even reported. Why? Because it's a huge pain in the ass to report. It takes you 30 minutes to even submit a claim or submit a report. So most people don't do it. So only 1% of all adverse events. So when you go to VAERS, keep that in mind. Now, last thing I want to conclude with is this. And why, question for you, why are there so many more vaccines now than there was? Here's what I mean by this. Here's a schedule, and if you look at it to the left, I realize it's backwards because we're live. To the left is in 1983. To the right is 2010. I got to scroll down because you can see how many more vaccines there were. By the way, the new updated schedule for 2023 versus 83 is up, in case you guys want to go and find that. Now, point with that or question with that is, what's changed? And I want to address that specifically when I talk about reason number 2 or 3, which is adverse events and liability with vaccines. But ultimately, I wanted to make the point today that the number one reason why you do not vaccinate is because you don't need to. Remember, there's less than a 1% chance of even contracting the majority of it. Way less than 1% chance of dying from it if you do contract it. And bacterial infections, thank God, can be treated with antibiotics if it gets to that point. And viral infections, your body can heal itself when supported properly. We don't die of diarrhea anymore. Now, maybe third world countries, that's an issue, but we don't die from vomiting and diarrhea and dehydration. Anyway, reason number 2, coming out tomorrow. We're going to go 5 days in a row with the top 5 reasons to not vaccinate. If you have friends that still vaccinate, share the video. If you have friends that don't vaccinate and they want some validation as to why, then share the video. Please tag somebody, save it. Yesterday, first video back after 90 days. Praise the Lord. We went over 11,000 views in less than 24 hours. I appreciate your support, and I'll see you around.